On the day of my wedding, I stood in a seaside church in my wedding dress, waiting for my fiancé. But what I waited for was his message: Sarah, we need to postpone the wedding. Lily cut her wrists again. I have to go. Everyone looked at me like I was a joke, convinced I'd endure it like I had for the past 6 years, quietly tolerating him and that unstable superfan who'd obsessed over him for 10 years. But no one expected that. At that moment, I said nothing. I simply removed my veil, turned around, walked out, and tossed the engagement ring onto the red carpet and disappeared from his world. No one knew. This time, it was a goodbye he would never get back for the rest of his life, and by the time he realized it, I was already in another man's arms, being loved in ways he could never reach. When Aaron Chase's fingers danced across the black and white piano keys, the entire concert hall was so silent we could hear the sound of breathing. When the last note fell, applause exploded like fireworks. He rose to his feet and bowed, the spotlight hitting him like he was a prince. I was his fiancée of 6 years, Sarah Summers. When he stepped off the stage, I walked up with a bouquet in my hands. He accepted the flowers but didn't look at me. His gaze went past my shoulder, landing somewhere in the crowd. Aaron, I began, but he was already walking toward the long table. My heart clenched hard. The celebration banquet was held in a 5-star hotel ballroom. Champagne towers sparkled, and everyone was smiling and congratulating him. I sat at the main table, watching Aaron surrounded by people. He raised his glass, his profile so perfect it almost didn't look real. Sarah, his team's junior assistant, whispered beside me. Aaron's acting a little strange today. I tightened my grip on my glass. He's probably exhausted from the competition. Before I finished speaking, commotion suddenly rose at the entrance. A girl in a white dress walked in, long hair, thin as paper, eyes locked straight onto Aaron Chase. My blood ran cold. Lily Ward, the superfan who had stalked Aaron for 10 years. She had knocked on hotel doors in the middle of the night, stolen shirts he'd worn, loitered backstage after every performance. In the past, Aaron would frown the moment he saw her. Where's security? Get her out. But today, Lily walked toward him step by step. The crowd parted for her, whispers buzzing like mosquitoes. How did she get in? Heard she bribed a staff member. Aaron hates her the most. Lily stopped in front of the main table, looking at Aaron from 3 meters away. Her eyes were red, and her voice trembled. Aaron, congratulations. I waited for Aaron to tell her to get lost, like he always had, but instead, he set down his glass, and then he did something that made the entire room gasp. He pulled out the empty chair beside him, the seat that was supposed to be mine. Sit. His tone was soft, but the word hit like thunder. Lily's eyes lit up instantly, like a child given candy. When she sat, the hem of her dress brushed against Aaron's pant leg. My nails dug into my palm. People around us whispered, is he acknowledging her? Oh God, what about his fiancé? I stood and walked to Aaron's side. I reached for his hand, but he lifted his arm to adjust his tie at that exact moment, and my fingers caught only air. Aaron, I whispered, you let her sit here? He finally looked at me, but his eyes held a tiredness I had never seen before. Sarah, she supported me for 10 years. She's a stalker. She harassed you, followed you. Don't start. He cut me off gently, like speaking to a child throwing a tantrum. She didn't do anything wrong today. Didn't do anything wrong. My breathing turned uneven, my chest tightened, hands trembling. I knew this feeling, anxiety attack. I had taken meds, seen doctors, but whenever Aaron turned cold, the panic always returned. I clutched his sleeve, desperate. Aaron, I don't feel well. He pulled his arm away, a small movement, but it felt like a slap. Go sit down first, he said, then turned to Lily. What would you like to drink? Lily smiled sweetly. The same thing you're having. When the waiter came, Lily suddenly stood as if jolted. The wine glass flew from her hand, shattered on the ground, red wine splashing everywhere like blood. Ah, Lily screamed. Clutching her hand, a shard had cut her finger. Aaron shot up instantly. He grabbed her wrist and pulled her toward the exit. Hospital now. He didn't even look back at me. I stood frozen, watching my fiancé run out of the hall with another woman, hand in hand, like she was the one who mattered most. The whispers rose again. The girl he really loves is her, isn't it? Poor Sarah Summers. 6 years loses to 10. My chest tightened until I bent over. Darkness washed over my vision. Then I remembered nothing. When I woke up, the sharp scent of disinfectant filled my nose. I was lying on a hospital bed, and 4 needle in my hand. Outside the window, dawn was breaking, the sky a dim gray. Sarah. Aaron was sitting beside the bed, dark shadows under his eyes. He held my hand, his palm warm. Once, that warmth would have calmed me. Now it only felt false. You fainted, he said hoarsely. The doctor said your anxiety acted up. You need rest. I pulled my hand away. Where's Lily? His gaze drifted. She got to stitches. She's in the room next door. So you spent the night with her, I said quietly, and came to see me afterward? Sarah. He was about to explain when the door suddenly swung open. Lily walked in. Her left hand was wrapped in gauze, and her right hand held a bouquet, not the lilies I liked, but Aaron's favorite. Blue hydrangeas. Aaron, she chirped. Completely ignoring me, I bought breakfast. You should eat something. Aaron stood quickly. Lily, not now. Go outside. Why? Lily finally looked at me, her stare sharp like a blade. Sarah Summers, she said, voice trembling with emotion. I've known Aaron for 10 years. 10 years. Do you even know what 10 years means? She took a step closer, tears in her eyes. I was there for his first gig when there were only 3 people in the audience, and I was one of them. When he had a fever but kept practicing, I brought him medicine and food. When haters attacked him and he broke down, I stayed up all night chatting with him. I saved every poster, every ticket stub. My phone is full of his pictures. Then she glared at me, each word dripping with venom. You've only been with him 6. What right do you have to stand beside him? What right do you have to be his fiancé? My body went cold, not because of her words but because of Aaron's reaction. He should have yelled at her to stop. He should have defended me instead. He only frowned and said, Lily, enough. I only acknowledge you out of appreciation for 10 years of support. Support? Such a light word. But I heard something in his tone, a tremor, a softening. Lily burst into tears, sobbing loudly. Aaron, I don't want your appreciation. I want you. Aaron's hand shook. He turned to pour water, but the cup clanged against the kettle, the sound harsh and uneven. Hot water spilled onto his hand, reddening the skin instantly. He didn't even flinch. I watched his dazed profile, and suddenly I knew, for the first time, this man was slipping through my fingers. A voice inside me screamed, do something. Don't let him go. I clenched my fists and forced the words out. Aaron Chase. Let's get married. The room fell silent. Lily stopped crying. Aaron froze mid-pour. He turned around after 5 long seconds. His face was blank, then he nodded. All right. The day I was discharged, the weather was beautiful. Aaron handled the paperwork while I waited outside the hospital doors. Sunlight warmed my face, and for a brief moment, I thought maybe, just maybe, things would get better. Then Lily appeared. She stepped out from behind a tree, face pale, bandages still on her hand. Sarah Summers, she blocked my path. You think you've won? Let me tell you, Aaron cares about me. He came to my room last night and stayed with me. I tightened my grip on my bag. Move no, she screamed, eyes red and swollen. Not unless you leave him. You don't deserve Lily. Aaron's cold voice came from behind me. He walked over, face like ice. He didn't look at Lily. He simply pulled out his phone and dialed 911. Hello? Yes, there's someone causing a disturbance at the city hospital entrance. Lily's eyes widened as if stabbed. Aaron, you're calling the police on me? Stay away from Sarah, he said, voice sharp as a blade. Next time, I won't be so polite. When the police car arrived, Lily was taken away. She looked back at him, utterly devastated, like her world had collapsed. I exhaled in relief. He finally understood. But that night, at 11 p.m., Aaron's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his expression changed instantly. He rushed to the balcony to take the call. He closed the glass door. But I still heard everything. Lily, are you insane? Why didn't that car hit you harder? The fury in his voice made my heart tremble. Then silence, followed by his voice, suddenly soft, shaking. Where? Which hospital? Don't move, I'm coming. He ran into the living room and grabbed his coat. Where are you going? I blocked him. His face was white as paper. Lily? She was in a car accident. My stomach dropped. You're going to see her? Just for a moment. She has no family here. Why does that matter to you? I shouted. Aaron, I'm your fiancé. We're supposed to finalize the wedding venue next week. He stopped at the door. Sarah, don't force me. She might die. The door slammed shut. I stood in the empty living room, listening to his hurried footsteps fade away. For the first time, the apartment we shared felt unbearably cold. The wedding planner spread photos of venues on the table. Beach chapel or forest estate. Which does Miss Summers prefer? I stared at the photos but couldn't focus. Aaron sat beside me, phone face up. The The screen kept lighting up, then dimming, then lighting again. Every notification from Lily. Aaron, my hand hurts. When will you visit me? I dreamed about you. Aaron's fingers trembled. He finally grabbed the phone and walked to the window. I heard him whisper, Lily, I'm busy right now. All right. Don't cry, I'll be there soon. He hung up and walked toward me, stiff and guilty. My team needs me for something urgent. I have to go. What exactly? I asked, rescheduling a performance. He avoided my eyes. I won't be long. He left. I unlocked my phone and opened Lily Ward's social media. I had secretly followed her. Her newest post was a photo of the hospital window at night, but in the reflection of the glass, a man stood behind her, wearing the very suit I had ironed for Aaron that morning. Caption: he was always meant to be mine. Pain stabbed my chest sharp, relentless. I called Aaron, once, twice, 3 times, no answer. I sank to the floor, surrounded by wedding gown fitting photos. In the pictures, I was smiling so happily. But the man I was supposed to marry was in another woman's hospital room. My vision blurred with tears, with trembling fingers. I typed, will you come to the gown fitting tomorrow? Half an hour later, he replied, yes, just 1 word, and I cried like a fool. The day of the wedding. The sun blazed bright. I put on my dress and looked at my reflection. The makeup artist said softly, Miss Summers, you look stunning today. My bridesmaid adjusted my veil. Has Aaron arrived? I glanced at my phone, no messages. Guests filled the church. The floral arch swayed gently in the sea breeze. The officiant approached me for the 3rd time. The groom still isn't here. I called Aaron. The call rang for a long time before he picked up. The background was chaos, sirens, crying, Sarah. He was panting, panicked. The wedding, we have to delay it. My entire body went ice cold. What did you say? Lily. She tried to harm herself again. She slit her wrists. I can't leave her. She'll die if I. The world muted. All I could hear was my own heartbeat, pounding like a funeral drum. So I said, eerily calm, you're abandoning me on our wedding day to stay with another woman, Sarah. Please understand this is life or death, okay? I hung up. I removed my veil. The lace I spent a month choosing fluttered to the red carpet like a fallen white bird, and in front of all the stunned guests, I walked out of the church. The ocean wind was strong, whipping my hair. I took out my phone and posted, wedding canceled. Wish each other well. Then I turned it off. I returned to the apartment we'd lived in for 3 years and packed my things, clothes, books, photos, anything tied to him. I left behind. I took only my documents and a small suitcase. At 4 p.m., I boarded a train leaving the city. I didn't look back later. Friends told me that Aaron didn't return home until late that night. When he saw the half-empty closet, he froze for a long time. When he saw my toothbrush missing from the sink, I had thrown it away. When he saw one of our matching mugs shattered in the trash, I had broken it. He lost control, calling my number over and over, but my phone was off. He rushed to my parents' home. They told him coldly, Sarah didn't come back. He contacted all our friends, but every response was an accusation. You abandoned your bride for another woman. What else do you want? Aaron, you're disgusting. Sarah left. You deserved it. They said. He collapsed onto the living room floor, holding his head, crying for the first time in his life. I messed up. Sarah, come back, please. But I didn't know any of that. On the train, I watched the scenery fly past fields, rivers, distant mountains. When I turned my phone on, hundreds of messages and missed calls appeared. I deleted all of them. Then I changed my number. The wind blew through the window, and I took a deep breath. Suddenly, I realized without him, I could finally breathe normally. My heart still felt hollow, but it no longer hurt. My hometown was a small village in the south. When my parents saw me standing at the door with a suitcase, they froze. My mom's eyes reddened instantly. She ran up and hugged me tightly. Baby, you've become so thin. My dad quietly took my suitcase, placing a big hand on my shoulder. You're home now. That's what matters. I didn't tell them about the wedding, but they had seen the news. Mom cooked all my favorite dishes every day. Dad saved the best fruit for me. They didn't ask questions, they just made sure I felt loved. I started gardening, taking over a small patch of land in our yard, planting seeds, watering, weeding, waiting for tiny sprouts to appear. Local Andes teased me, a college girl back here farming. But when my tomatoes ripened big and sweet, they all crowded around, amazed. Sarah, how'd you grow tomatoes this big? I laughed. Books and videos. Truth was, during sleepless nights when my anxiety spiraled, I watched agricultural tutorials for hours just to keep my mind occupied. I never imagined I'd actually use them, using scientific methods to improve the soil. My produce turned out flavorful and bright. The first time I tasted a cucumber I grew myself, I crouched in the dirt, tears falling onto the soil. Turns out, I could build a life without him. One day, the necklace around my neck suddenly broke. It was the first gift Aaron ever gave me, a silver chain with a heart-shaped charm. It breaking felt right. I knelt to look for the fallen charm when a voice above me said, "Looking for this?" A slender hand held out the tiny silver heart. I looked up. The sun was bright, and I squinted, but the face was familiar. Evan Pierce, the boy who lived next door when we were kids, 3 years older than me. He used to protect me from bullies, share his snacks with me, help me with homework. His family moved to the city years ago, and I never saw him again. Now he stood in front of me, white shirt sleeves rolled up, clean features, looking nothing like a village boy. He noticed my hands covered in dirt but didn't flinch. He simply smiled. "Sarah, long time no see." I stood quickly, a little flustered. "Evan, when did you come back?" "Recently." His eyes dropped to my hands. "Farming?" "Yeah." I wiped my hands on my pants and smiled. "It's actually fun." Even I didn't expect my smile to feel that bright. Evan's gaze deepened for a moment before he returned to his gentle expression. He reached into his pocket and handed me a small box. "I brought you something." Inside was a delicate chain, not a heart this time, but a tiny glowing star. "To replace your necklace," he said softly. My mom walked out and immediately lit up. "Evan, you're back. Come in, come in." He nodded politely. "Yes, Auntie, at dinner." Mom kept piling food into his bowl, looking at him like he was her own son. Evan kept glancing at me first to see what I liked before serving himself. His voice was warm, his manners steady. Whenever he talked to me, his eyes held a gentle seriousness. That night, lying in bed and staring at the stars outside my window, I realized someone could like me simply, purely, and wholeheartedly. Aaron found the village while I was in the field picking watermelons. He had lost a shocking amount of weight. His eyes were sunken, beard unshaven, and his once crisp white shirt was wrinkled and lifeless. He looked nothing like the polished piano prince he used to be. "Sarah." His voice was hoarse, ragged. I stood up with a watermelon in my arms and looked at him calmly. My mom rushed out of the house and immediately blocked him. "What are you doing here? Get out." "Auntie, I just want to talk to Sarah." "Talk about what?" Mom trembled with anger. "How you abandoned her at her own wedding to run to another woman. My daughter is not someone you get to mistreat." At some point, Evan arrived, quietly stepping to my side. He didn't say anything, but his presence alone was steady and unmistakable. Aaron looked at Evan, and his expression darkened instantly. "Who are you?" Evan answered coolly, "Her neighbor. Stay away from her." Aaron stepped forward, reaching for my hand. I took a step back, avoiding his touch. His whole body froze. "Sarah." His eyes reddened. "I messed up. I really messed up, Lily. She attempted suicide 3 times. I couldn't let someone die, so you decided to let me die at the altar?" I asked quietly. "No. I only postponed the wedding. I never said I wouldn't marry you." "Aaron," I cut him off, each word ice cold. "Can you swear that you didn't feel even a little something for Lily?" He fell silent. The wind rustled through the rice fields, whispering soft, endless sounds. And in that long rustle his silence cut away the last remaining piece of my hope. I laughed, a broken, quiet laugh, and tears fell. 6 years. I stayed with you when you were playing in basements and cafes, from empty audiences to standing ovations. I stayed up editing your sheet music. I endured anxiety attacks just to accompany you. I gave you my youth, my health, everything. But all she had to do was cry, scream, and threaten to die, and you panicked. Aaron Chase. "Do you really think I can still believe you?" I wiped my tears. "We're done. Completely done." Aaron went pale. He reached for me again, desperate. "No, Sarah. Don't say that. I'll change. I swear I'll change. I'll cut ties with her. We'll redo the wedding. She's not alone." Evan stepped forward, placing himself between us. He was half a head taller than Aaron, and his calm, steady aura crushed Aaron's shaky desperation. "Please leave," Evan said, voice firm. Aaron looked at him standing protectively in front of me, looked at my mother's furious expression, looked at my face cold and resolute. His lips trembled, but he said nothing. He staggered back like a defeated animal and walked away. That was the moment I realized. Letting someone go completely doesn't hurt. It feels like breathing again. Evan studied agricultural supply chain management and owned a company in the city. One day, he came to find me. Holding documents, Sarah, he said, your growing techniques are impressive. I want to work with you. Work with me? I blinked. Yes. I'll handle sales and logistics. You handle cultivation and quality control. We'll build a brand and bring the village's best produce to markets across the country. I stared. Can I actually do that? Of course, he said. I sincere. You grow the best produce I've ever tasted. Our first product was my improved rainbow cherry tomatoes, different colors, different flavors. Evan brought in business partners for a tasting. A round, good-natured supplier bit into one and his eyes widened. These tomatoes taste like childhood. He signed the contract on the spot. My 3 acres of land soon weren't enough. Local aunties started helping, and I taught them the techniques. They provided the labor. We expanded the fields, rose neat and thriving. Our little farm became the county's model project. Evan visited often. He'd stand on the ridge, watching me work. Sometimes when I turned around, I'd catch him staring with admiration, warmth, and something deeper. When it rained, he'd bring me an umbrella. He always got half soaked but tilted it entirely toward me. Evan, you'll catch a cold, I murmured. He smiled. You're more important. My heart missed a beat. New Year's Eve arrived with the season's first snow. Children ran through the village streets with sparklers, firecrackers popping non-stop, filling the night with warmth and noise. Evan showed up at my door carrying 2 large boxes of fireworks, remember? He asked with a faint smile. When we were kids, you always used your New Year's money to buy fireworks, then gave half to me. I laughed softly, I remember. And you always said I was wasting money. Well, he said, setting up the fireworks. Now it's my turn to waste money. He lit the fuse. A brilliant spray of color shot into the sky, exploding into shimmering stars. Red, gold, violet. The fireworks illuminated his calm, handsome profile. Snowflakes drifted down, settling on his dark eyelashes. He turned and looked at me. Sarah, His voice lowered, warm and steady. Be with me. I froze. He stepped closer, just enough that I could feel his warmth in the cold air. I know you've been hurt, he said softly. I know you need time, and I'm not asking for anything rushed. He lifted his gaze, meeting mine head on. I just want you to know this with me. You won't have to feel anxious anymore. You won't have to wonder if you're enough. You won't have to be afraid of being abandoned. Sarah, I want to make up for everything you've ever endured, day by day. Year by year, I want to prove that choosing me is the right choice. Snow was falling, fireworks bloomed overhead. I looked into his eyes, clear, bright, filled with light, and filled with me. My throat tightened, my fingers trembled in the cold, then I nodded. Okay. A slow, brilliant smile spread across his face. He gently pulled me into his arms. His embrace was warm and clean, carrying the faint scent of soap. I leaned against his shoulder, watching the fireworks burst into flowers in the sky. The hollow space in my heart slowly, gently began to fill. Evan, I said quietly, this is the best New Year I've ever had. Spring arrived, and our agricultural brand was featured on the provincial TV program. I wore a simple shirt and stood in front of the camera explaining our planting methods. Evan watched from offstage, eyes full of pride. The night the episode aired, I received a text from an unfamiliar number. Sarah, you look well. I'm sorry, it was from Aaron. I didn't reply. I deleted it immediately. A few days later, a major news story broke. Pianist Aaron Chase attacked by obsessed fan, severe nerve damage to left hand. Career may be over. The report said Lily Ward had broken into Aaron's apartment, fueled by an unstable mix of obsession and jealousy. Aaron instinctively raised his hand to block her. The knife cut directly across the densest cluster of nerves in his left hand. The surgery lasted 8 hours. Doctors said full flexibility might never return. A video clip accompanied the news. Aaron sat in a wheelchair, his left hand completely wrapped in bandages. His eyes were empty, lifeless, hollow, like a dried-up well. A reporter asked, Mr. Chase, what do you want to say right now? He stared at the camera, lips trembling. I deserved it. Another clip showed Lily being taken away by police, screaming hysterically, if I can't have him, no one can. I turned off the TV. Evan walked out from the kitchen, holding a mug of warm milk. What were you watching? Nothing, I said, taking the mug. Someone who's not important. He sat beside me, gently pulled me into his arms. Cold. Outside the window, the cherry blossoms in the village were blooming soft, white and pink, like floating clouds. I leaned against his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. Evan, I whispered, thank you for finding me. He kissed the top of my head. No, he murmured, thank you for letting me later. I heard that Aaron moved to a small coastal town. He couldn't perform professionally anymore. His left hand would never fully recover, so he opened a tiny piano studio, teaching children how to play. He still had music, just not the future he once dreamed of. Meanwhile, Evan and I grew our farm into something bigger and better, helping the entire village prosper. Spring came again, and we got married. I chose a simple, elegant wedding dress. Evan stood beneath the cherry blossom tree in a suit, waiting for me as petals drifted around us. There was no grand ceremony, just family, friends, and villagers who had watched us grow. When we exchanged rings, he looked into my eyes and said, Sarah Summers, I'll spend my whole life showing you that love is still beautiful. I smiled, tears blurring my vision. Evan Pierce. I already believed that. The wind blew softly, carrying petals through the air. They landed on my veil like pieces of snow. In the audience, Mom was wiping her eyes. Dad was grinning from ear to ear. Villagers were cheering. The children tossed flower petals at us. I looked up at the man beside me. His eyes were full of light, and all that light was mine. I realized something then. True happiness doesn't need fireworks or grand gestures. It only needs the right person, and a heart brave enough to love again. And all the pain, the tears, the 6 years I spent on someone who didn't cherish me, all of it led me right to him. The man who came back for me. The man who stood beside me. The man who filled my empty heart, my beginning and my home. Thank you for finishing today's story. Please share your thoughts in the comments section. If you enjoyed the story, remember to like and subscribe to my channel. There are more amazing stories waiting for you to experience with me. See you tomorrow.